Hey guys, I just wanted to talk about this Hornady Lock-n-Load AP for a little bit today. I've had this probably about 2 months now, and I want to like it, but it's making it really difficult. Originally, I was just going to buy another Dillon, because I have a Dillon Square Deal B, and I love it. It runs like a freaking Swiss watch, loads good ammo. I never have any problems with it. So I was just going to order a 650, and because I wanted that to do 5.56 and 45 and whatnot. And I was in one of the gun shops over in Vermont, and they had this sitting on the shelf. So I was like, well, what the hell, and the total, I got 2 shell plates and some extra bushings and shit like that, and the case feeder and everything. And it ran me right around $1,000 for the whole thing. And I got it home, unboxed it, set it up, and I'm just really, really unimpressed with it so far. I know there's a lot of people out there that have them. They love them. Maybe I got one that was built on a Friday at 4 o'clock. I don't know. When I was loading 223 on it, the priming system just didn't want to work. So I sat here fricking around with the rod, and I finally got it to work most of the time. The timing was off on it bad when I got it. That was a whole lot of fun to adjust. The timing still, about every 150, 200 rounds, the timing starts to go out, but it's usually just, a small adjustment to the right pawl will get it back in. It speeds up too much. I had to put a little piece of hacksaw blade under the primer punch because it was putting a big dent in the aluminum frame, and it wasn't seating the primers deep enough. What else? I got to the point with the 223 that I just I run them through one time. I take everything out except for a decapping die, full length sizing die, and I decap and resize like 1,000 pieces of brass all at once, and then I just prime off the press and put the primed brass up in the case feeder, because trying to prime on the press with this thing was just getting to be such a freaking headache that it wasn't worth it. So if you start out with primed brass, it runs okay doing 223, but man, I don't know. A lot of people say, well, if you're having problems with the Hornady, it's because you don't know how to set up a progressive press. Well, I've got 3 other progressive presses that I set up that run fine, and this one doesn't seem to want to. With 45, it seems to go okay until it goes to eject the loaded round. You see there, it's firmly wedged in there. It doesn't want to eject it. And sometimes it'll eject it fine, other times it won't. And too. And the primer punch doesn't always line up with the brass. That dude, I've screwed with it and tweaked it and fiddled with it, and then sometimes the brass just falls off of there. I know guys that put, foil tape and other stuff there to keep it from doing that, but I don't know. When I spend $1,000 on a press, I don't feel like I should have to screw with it to make it work. Just like the primer feed thing. I had to take all that out and deburr everything with some fine sandpaper to get it to work at all. So, it's stuck again. And something that doesn't want to feed it in there all the way, and you have to help it. And you see there, the primer just won't seat. There. It's just, I don't know. These are all issues. Oh, yeah, it worked. These are all issues that I just don't have with any other progressive press that I own. It's stuck again. See, there's brass falling out. One's stuck. Hear that? The primer's not lining up. I don't know, I thought that was an issue with timing, but I mean, I've sat here and fiddled with the timing for God knows how long trying to get it to work, and it still doesn't want to work. I don't know, man. This is... I mean, it's only like... See, that one's stuck again. It's like, it's not even really a progressive press, dude. You spend so much time fiddling around with all this shit trying to make it work. And this frickin' spring that they use to hold in the brass instead of locator buttons, that thing lasts probably maybe 500 rounds, and that's after I took the shell plate off and deburred the underside of it with some fine sandpaper. Because as it came from the factory, it was chewing these springs up at a rate of about 1 every 50 rounds. There's a reason they sell these springs in 3-packs, Another one's stuck. I don't know. A friend of mine, Vern, has one of these set up in his shop, and he uses it for 45, and it runs like a frickin' top. He doesn't have any problems with it. This one, I don't know, it must have sat around the gun shop forever, because it's got like a 5-digit serial number, so it's an older one, but I had to get I had to pay $30 for the new base with the easy eject in it, because with the wire ejector, it wouldn't eject anything. 45, 223, Now, this one ejects the 223 out of there just fine, but the 45 gets stuck. And it'll go along, you know, sometimes it'll load like 10 or 12 rounds without a hitch. And then it'll start fucking up again. Half the time that won't go in there because it's trying to bump over that stupid spring. And then that primer's not lined up again. Stuck again. Didn't feed again. Primer's not lined up again. I mean, you see, it's so basically for the same amount of money I would have spent on the Dillon, I have a press that it just doesn't work, man. You know, I don't know. And I've seen other guys too, you know, where their brass hoppers weren't put together properly and they were spitting brass on the floor from up on the hopper. You know, occasionally when I'm loading, the powder measure will loosen up in the lock-and-load bushing. Like it rotates out, and the powder measure will pop up while I'm in the middle of loading. Sometimes this piece right here, you got to check that for tightness probably every 50 rounds or so, otherwise this bar pops off. Then the spring goes flying under the bench somewhere and you don't get any powder. Reloading rifle rounds, sometimes the brass gets hung up in this thing. What else? And you see that it's got a relatively low serial number. Maybe that has something to do with it. The mount for the cartridge catcher, that's got to be about the flimsiest piece of shit I've ever seen on a machine this expensive. You know, I had to screw the hopper onto the bench top, otherwise it kind of sags down, you know. Or the one on the Dillon, you know, is a nice heavy piece of aluminum. It doesn't bend or flex or anything, you know. I'm pretty disgusted with it overall, you know. I really wish I would have just held off and just went ahead and ordered the Dillon. This is probably one of those things that's going to wind up on the floor of the closet in the loading room next to that old RCBS 4x4 that didn't work very well. You know, I mean, Hornady customer service is usually pretty decent, but I mean, dude, the whole, you know, I know they're not going to replace the press if I send it back to them, because it's just, like I said, man, it must have been built on a Friday at 4 o'clock. Yeah. So if any of you guys have one of these and have some ideas about what the fuck is going on with some of these things, that'd be great. Before I do, just rip it off the bench and throw it out the window. Like I said, dude, I've sat here tweaking this bar and that bar and adjusting the wire up and down and all this other shit, deburring things, and you know, I'd love to figure out a way to keep that lock-and-load bushing in there tight so the powder measure didn't hop out of there every 50 rounds. You know, yeah. either way, man, even if I do get it running alright, I'm probably going to get rid of it and just get a Dillon like I planned on in the first place. You know, especially, dude, I've got this one. This this Dillon was like half the price, Primer seats every time, Everything lines up right on it, and it always ejects. I mean, I've got another video of this thing on here where I loaded 100 rounds on it in, like 9 minutes and change. And it takes freaking, I don't know, dude, it probably takes 20 minutes to load 100 rounds on this freaking piece of shit. But anyway, like I said, dude, if you're like looking at getting a 5-station progressive with a case feeder and you've narrowed it down to either the Hornady or the Dillon, man, save yourself the freaking headache and just get a Dillon. I wish I had. This thing, I mean, I've had as many problems with this Hornady as I have with, like, my Lee Pro 1000, and the Lee progressives, they're alright for the money, for the money, it's really good, man. You get, like, a progressive press for, $100 and change. And I expect to have to fiddle with something like that a little bit. But when I spend $1,000 on a machine like this, dude, it should just freaking work, And it doesn't. Regardless of how much fiddling and screwing around I do, so. Yeah. And then on top of it, Hornady's giving me a hard time with the 500 free bullet thing. Because I gave them my original receipt and, all the other crap that they wanted, the little form. And, they're trying to say that, let's see here, if I can find it with one hand. Yeah, here we go. No UPC code included. Okay. Well, that looks like a UPC code to me. That was the only UPC code anywhere on the box. And now because it doesn't look like this one, they don't want to make good on their free bullet offer. So, yeah, not only did I get a pile of shit reloading press, but now, no free bullets for me. Because, I got a press that had been sitting on the gun shop shelf for too long, apparently. So, like I said, man, if you're thinking, Dillon or Hornady, man, just buy the Dillon. Forget this freaking junk, Especially if you get one that's been on the shelf for a while and you don't have the right UPC, because you're not going to get your free bullets. Just, like I said, man, don't waste your money